Now to that news from Facebook on Friday that President Trump will be suspended from the platform for at least 2 years, punishment for his provocation of the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Trump addressed the ban when he returned to the political stage in North Carolina last night.
Zuckerberg, it's another beauty. But they say they may allow me back in 2 years. No, I'm not too interested in that. They may allow me back in 2 years. We got to stop that. We can't let it happen. So unfair. They're shutting down an entire group of people, not just me. They're shutting down the voice of a tremendously powerful, in my opinion, a much more powerful and a much larger group.
Let's get a response now from Facebook's Vice President for Global Affairs, Nick Clegg. Nick, thanks for joining us this morning. You heard President Trump right there. What's your response?
Well, look, of course, we understand that making a decision like this is controversial. It's shouted at, if you like, from both sides, from those people who feel that Donald Trump should be back on the platform immediately, and from those who say he should be banned forever. It receives criticism from all sides. But, in a sense, our job is not to take these decisions with an eye to, which side of the political aisle is going to agree or disagree more with us, but just to do so in a way that is fair, transparent and proportionate, in line with our rules, and crucially, is responsive to the comments and criticisms that Facebook received when we first suspended Donald Trump from Facebook from the Independent Oversight Board, who said about a month ago, when looking at this case, they said, look, Facebook was right to suspend Donald Trump because of the exceptional and very grave circumstances in early January on the Capitol, but that Facebook was wrong to do so in an indefinite way, in an open-ended way, and that we needed to come up with clearer due process, clearer standards, clearer penalties, which we've now done. We've now set out what penalties would apply to what I hope will remain these very rare cases where a public individual uses our apps and services to say things in a way which foments, or in his case, praises rioters who were involved in violence ongoing at that very time. And we've now laid out those penalties and explained why we think in this particular case the most severe penalty is justified. That's a 2-year penalty. The timetable, I should stress, starts from early January, so expires in January 2023. And I don't, as for Donald Trump, of course, we don't expect him to welcome that decision. We do hope, though, that reasonable observers will believe that we are acting as reasonably and proportionately as we can in these very difficult circumstances.
You focused on the comments encouraging the rioters on January 6th. What about the lies about the election? The president repeated a series of those last night. Again, if the president gave the speech he gave last night in January 2023, would the suspension be extended?
Well, it's very difficult for me to make sort of hypothetical sort of judgments, and I haven't heard the full speech. What I can say is that we have a whole range of tools that we use to deal with misinformation. So we work with fact checkers around the world and demote and label content, whether it's claims about elections or indeed false claims about anything else, which is then clearly labeled for our users so they can see that independent fact checkers have said, look, this is either false or partly false or missing context and so on. So that is something we would apply to people who are not in active office or are not pursuing office as candidates in politics. That is a system which applies to everybody else and would apply in Donald Trump's case as long as he's no longer a candidate. So of course there is action that we take on misinformation, but I've got to be very clear. I don't think anybody wants a private company like Facebook to be vetting everything that people say on social media for its precise accuracy and then booting people off the platform if what they say is inaccurate. We can explain to users that independent fact checkers might find something to be inaccurate. I don't think they want Facebook to be a sort of truth.
So the bright red line there is encouraging violence, not spreading lies.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got very clear rules. They're called community standards. Everyone can go online to see them. And one of the brightest of those red lines, as you just implied, is that you cannot. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be the Pope, the Queen of England, the President of the United States. You cannot use our services, and I hope most people would think this is reasonable, to aid, abet, foment or praise acts of violence. And that I hope most people would agree is something that we just don't want on social media. Look, the vast majority of content on Facebook is innocent content. It's barbecues, bar mitzvahs, babies. Only about 6% of total content actually is related to politics. So the vast majority of reasons that people come on to Facebook is for good, positive, playful reasons, their kids, their families, their friends, or to run a local business and reach local customers and so on. And so I think it's right that we should be expected to take action where people, in hopefully on the whole rare cases, use our apps and services in a way which could lead to real-world imminent harm.
You hit on this in your previous answer. Is it Facebook's place to really be having this kind of power over political speech? And Kara Swisher in the New York Times raised this question in an op-ed this week. She said, it's obvious we need to discuss whether the decision to live or die online should be in the hands of a corporate executive with no accountability to speak of, all part of a bigger conversation about consolidation of power and what we're going to do to diminish it. As you know, there are growing calls on both the right and the left to break Facebook apart.
Yeah, I don't think actually chopping up a company deals with any of these difficult issues of the role of political speech, incitement to hatred and violence and so on. It doesn't matter whether the company's big or small, those issues will always be there. So my own view, for what it's worth, is the answer is not break up, the answer is regulation. And to that extent, I strongly agree what that commentator just said, which is, in the end, it's not, American democracy does not belong to Silicon Valley. It belongs to the American people. And the people who should set the rules for how American democracy plays out and where the line should be drawn on what speech is and is not acceptable shouldn't be private companies. It should be legislators and lawmakers in DC and around the world answerable to their own people. These are big societal decisions. And look, in the absence of regulation, in the absence of consensus from lawmakers on where we should draw the line, we have tried our best. We're very open about the community standards that we abide by. We've created, it's the first of its kind anywhere, no other Silicon Valley company has done this independent oversight board to hold us to independent account. But all of that, I agree, is an inadequate surrogate for what in the long run we need, which is societal rules set by democratic process, by lawmakers, not by private companies.
Nick Clegg, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.